Decorating Pages is a podcast dedicated to taking you behind the scenes of the designs of your favorite TV shows and films. Each episode, I'll be sharing design stories from some of Hollywood's most famous sets. Interviews from set decorators, production designers, directors, and actors about creating the look of TV and film, about their design inspirations, and stories that take sets from page to screen. Hello, and welcome to Decorating Pages. I'm your host, Kim Wanup. Well, I'm back to work. It's crazy. It's crazy being back to work. I'm sure some of you are feeling the same. I hope all of you get back to work soon. But I gotta say, so far the testing was pretty seamless. I'm pretty impressed how Fox set up the testing. You enter the lot, you go get tested, you leave. You get your retest results the next day, and then after that, you can start working. That went really smoothly, I thought. There's signage everywhere. Fox, and I'm sure all of the lots, have spent a huge amount on their graphics budget now because there's signage everywhere to wash your hands, keep your mask on, little things on the floor, keep 6 feet away from each other, and we're all going to get through this together. There's directional signs in the offices, one way. My department actually moved offices, which I scored a better office. So it worked out good for me. But that was a safety measure, and I applaud them for taking all of that action, and it's very appreciated. And even when you go on stage, I know construction had already started on our show, and my swing guys start this week, next week, and you work in like pods, and we're trying to figure out mandates and scheduling, and that's another podcast. But on each stage they have like the safety sinks, and they have monitors on each stage that you're making sure you're wearing your mask and washing your hands. And actually Jerry Kelter, who is a set decorator who hopefully someday will grace this podcast, has a prop house called Studio Prop Rental. And she made these safety sanitizing sink units that she's renting, and I may be selling. But they're pretty sweet looking. She showed me a picture. They're pretty cool. They're really nice. So if you need them for a show, because I'm pretty sure there's going to be a ton of movies made about this pandemic, and you're going to need to rent it for your set dressing, or now I think she's renting them out for use. They really work. But yeah, she's got some working ones, so I'll throw that in there. Anyway, traffic has been awesome. If anybody else is out and about, traffic's pretty light. It's freaky, but it's great in LA. I would say getting my show back to speed is a really difficult part, I'm sure, for anyone starting back on a show. I don't know how many of you were in the middle of prepping or shooting, but I think we shut down at the worst possible time for set dressing. I was 2 weeks away from shooting. I had a ton of purchases, a huge season rental that I had already picked up, but none of the sets were ready to dress. So, I was just kind of standing in line. When you're like, I don't know how to put it, like you're at the starting line and the gun's about to go off. That's how I felt, waiting for these sets to get done so I can like attack them. But my dressing is just all in a pile, basically. But starting back at this phase, it's really hard to remember where I left off. Because, I don't know. I kept pretty busy. I'm not like slowing down or anything, but it's hard to remember. Luckily, my buyers and I are pretty organized. And once we all sat down together, 6 feet apart, we talked through every single set and all of our orders, and then it all starts to come back. So I don't care how organized any show is, starting back like this is really hard. And I'm tired. I don't know about anybody else, but if you're starting back, man, I'm tired. I don't know if it's wearing the mask and trying to like talk through it all day is like making me tired. I'm not I'm not out of shape or anything, but maybe just mentally I'm exhausted. But I guess that's always how our job is. I'm always mentally exhausted. But I hope you start back to work soon, and I hope you're staying safe and healthy. On this episode, I speak with production designer / set decorator Matthew Flood Ferguson. Matthew is currently nominated for an Emmy for his design of the Netflix series Hollywood for outstanding production design for a narrative, period, or fantasy program 1 hour. His career as a set decorator focused on films like Running with Scissors, Beautiful Creatures, The Gift, Battle of the Sexes, and more. But recently, he turned to a string of high-end TV dramas like American Crime Story Versace and the upcoming Ratched, and he moved to production designer for the show Hollywood. We talk about how we met in Versace, how he started his career in commercials, the ridiculous pace it takes to get a show like Versace and Hollywood made, and if he'll be sticking with production design. I also gush about my love for the film Running with Scissors. It's just a beautiful, layered, dirty, funny sets. I don't know how else to describe it. I've always really liked the film, and I've always loved the period sets, and so I make him talk about it and make him tell us about all that good stuff. So I hope you enjoy. Congratulations, sir.
You know what? So I woke up at 8 o'clock, or like you have, I'm sure, or 7:30, and thought that the announcement would be earlier.
Yeah.
Than it was.
It
so
used
I didn't
to be.
realize it was at 8:30, and so I got on the computer and started to see, the different categories. And I kind of thought, okay, this isn't going well. It's not going to happen. And right when I completed that thought, I got a text. And I looked down, and it was you.
Oh!
And I thought, oh, you know what? This might be good news. And I clicked on it and said, congrats. And then I was just like, oh, my God, I can't believe it.
Oh, no, that's fantastic. I knew it. I knew you would be. I knew it. Thank
you. I'm thrilled and so honored, honestly, that the Academy has recognized all the work that we've done, as I'm sure you have felt.
Oh, yeah. And the peer, I think it's your peers, and you're like, oh, my God. Like, I thought I was the only one voting for myself.
Totally. So,
I think, too, I always think, like, well, I have, like, 5 friends. They'll vote for me, too. I vote for them.
There's only like 66, entries or whatever.
Oh, it's a lot. It's and I always feel like when there's one that's like out of the blue or like unexpected, I'm like, oh, all right, people watch. People, right. Obviously, people voted for that. Like, okay, I don't know. I respect the whole process, and I know it's political, but not. It's weird.
Right.
And then, like, for the next round, I believe either cinematography or wardrobe votes in the category. So it's not just your peers.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah. And I think that's a really good rule, because then it helps break up any sort of, like, popularity. You know what I mean? Right. I think when it takes it out of the element, you're like, oh, no. People voted for it. So
what you're telling me is I need to start calling all the DPs.
Yes. I did.
Like Joan Crawford or something.
Oh, I hashtagged the hell out of, like, costume designers and, like... You've done so many interviews already.
God.
Isn't that great?
I mean, yeah, it's a bit nerve-wracking, to be honest. It is great. But, I guess we're our worst critics. So every time I go back and I sort of look at what I've said, I can't help but feel like, God, I sound like...
I know. And then I feel like I say, like, only the ones that I've done, I feel like, oh, I said the same thing. You couldn't think of anything more you dumbass, like.
Right. Or I've said, the stage or this place or that location, and I've used the same word 100 times in like one paragraph. It's like,
yeah,
get a better vocabulary or something.
I'm definitely not a good writer, and I think I'm a better talker than writer, so I guess that's all I got going for me.
I've been enjoying your podcast, actually. I walk every morning out here, so it's 4 miles to the main gate.
Wow.
Round trip. Yeah, I know. And so there's nobody on the road. It's just, and so I've been listening to podcasts. So I've been listening to yours along with Karina Longworth's.
Oh, nice. Nice. It's been, the pandemic for me has been great because I kind of cornered people and been like, listen, you got no excuse. Like, I know you're home.
Right. You don't got anything else to do.
And some people it worked, and some people, and that's fine. And there were some people that were like, look, I'm not in the right headspace to even, like, talk about anything right now, and I respect that too. So, but it just gave me a better opportunity in this time to, like, focus on it, because I really have been wanting to do it, and it's really hard to do when we're working. So I've also been able to, like, stock up a couple interviews, and then so I have some to keep going, because once we start working, it's just really hard.
I know, and you're a mother of 2.
Yeah. That's like I was saying. So I started today. In your your Versace offices. The art department's been on for almost 3 weeks, and it's like, God, I would almost rather start a new show, because picking up the pieces right now of, like, did I get that chandelier? Did I get that chair? Did I pick the fabric for that curtain? Is actually a lot harder. And I was like,
you've been in a rhythm.
Yeah.
And it takes a bit to get into that rhythm, and it's always sort of daunting for me. But before any job, I get kind of depressed.
Yes.
And it's almost a fear of, do I know what I'm doing? Do I know how to do this?
Me
and
too.
then, of course, day 1, day 2, you're like, okay, this is what I do. And so by the time you're, 3-4 weeks into prep, everyone's in a rhythm. You're starting to figure everyone out.
Yeah.
To then come to a complete stop, it's natural to be like, you sort of disconnect from it. So you got to get back up on the train, and it's already sort of moving.
Yeah. And I thought it was a slow moving, but actually now we have a shoot date, and you're like, oh, I got to get up to speed. Like, I have like 2 days basically. My buyers start Monday. Like, I've got 2 days to, like, play with my fabrics or something, and not even, because even today I was like, and I had to move offices. They moved us, so that's basically what I did all day. I walked the stages, I moved my office, and then I'm like,
but now you're doing this.
And now this is a break. This is fantastic. This I love. What I loved is when I look at your credits, I love running with scissors.
Oh yeah, thanks.
I love running with scissors. And obviously I didn't know you then, and but, and so I rewatched it again the other night, and I read the book when it before it came out, and I actually was, like, a huge fan of Augustus Burroughs, I believe is how you say it?
Yeah, Augustin Burns.
And I went to, like, a book signing, like, I met him, I was, like, all in with him, and so that movie is, like, I think when you're invested like that, you see a movie and then you're like, oh, this is exactly what I thought it would be. Like, to be able to decorate that character of that house, that must have been so interesting.
The Finn house?
Yeah.
Dr. Finn's house? Yeah. So that was my second film as a decorator. I had for years worked, not years, but for a long time, worked as a buyer on commercials. And then I started to decorate commercials. And I met a production designer who I worked with over the years, Richard Sherman, and we developed a really good relationship. And we did a film called Happy Endings, which turned. So it started off non-union, and then it flipped after 30 days. I can't remember the deal. So that's how I got into the union.
I know. I was going to say, your resume is like feature film. Like, you were, I was like, Where's this guy?
But
This IMDb must be wrong.
No, I had a backlog of commercials. You don't see
Right,
that. I
right.
mean, so many.
Right.
But so Running with Scissors being my second film as a decorator, it was a big undertaking. And the Finch House, I remember talking with Richard. I mean, he likes to work very, very closely with decorators. Sometimes to a point where I'm like, okay, I need to be on my own to get stuff done.
Oh, yeah.
But we're friends and we joke about it. And the Finch House needed to be, packed and just full of layers and antique pieces and carved wood, chairs and stuffed birds and just everything. So I pulled a deal with Sony when Sony was down off of Jefferson. Remember?
Alpha Alla? Or something?
Yes,
Yeah,
Alpha Alla.
Yeah.
And literally we were going through and I pulled a deal there and I pulled a deal at Warner Brothers and Ronnie. It's when Ronnie was running the prop house.
There was a couple Warner Brothers pieces I saw in there. I go, oh, Veep.
Yes. Yeah. Isn't that great?
Oh.
Yeah. So definitely Warner Brothers and Sony. And at the time, Colleen Broderick was one of my buyers, and she was great. We had a lot of fun. And early on, I think she had been shopping for some, set dressing, some smalls. And this was the days when we took photographs. Remember photographs and printed them.
Printed.
To go over set dressing at the end of the day, and we would print doubles. And she was like looking at a thing. She was, well, I was thinking maybe this clock on the second shelf and maybe that box of, and I was like, Colleen, we need every shelf.
Tag it all. Tag it all, girl.
Circle the whole thing. Just that whole shelf, grab it all. And then, I was still learning, to be honest, on that kind of a level of dressing. And I remember when the trucks arrived and all of the stuff started coming off the truck. And as you know, it's all disheveled.
Yeah, nothing's in order.
Nothing's in order. And you have kind of this pressure to be able to deliver and direct the guys and girls, women, where things need to go and start putting it together. And this was a full mansion. And Richard was great because he said, just start pointing and just get it into places, and then you can start to adjust, which is what he did. And I was like, okay, put this here, put that there. And it started to kind of started to tell a story. And then we kind of would move things around and fine tune. I think we had about you don't want to hear this, but I think we had a good solid 5 days to dress that.
Well, God, that just should. I mean, the whole house, that's a lot. That's probably like 13 sets in that house, plus the yards. The yards had so much shit in them.
I know.
So much random shit. It was so great. But there was logic to it. Because I paused and I looked around. There's logic to it, but it was just so layered, and you had to do period.
Right.
It wasn't even like you could do modern shit. Like, you had a lot of period stuff in there, and that's even like keeping that all correct. And that first house, I love that Annette Bening house.
The yellow.
Oh, you didn't do that?
Oh yeah, we did that. I love that. We did it all. Oh yeah, lemon yellow, and the we had like black and white houndstooth check, and then turquoise lamps, and so that was a great set. The whole house, it was a great set to do, and we scouted. I was with Richard a lot on the scouts, and this was a house that we used. It's a funky house on the corner of Rossmore and maybe Beverly. And it's kind of this 60s brick. And we built sets within that house to kind of redo the scale of rooms. But I remember Richard kind of a little bit nervous saying, okay, well, what do you think about this house? What do you think about this house? I was like, I think it's good. And he goes, the walls are so good. And as a decorator, wasn't something I was thinking about, but the walls have this great texture, this brick, and it's kind of ugly, but it's period and it's great.
Right.
And it gives this element, this kind of realness. And I kind of remember that moment, and he was just so keen on like, these walls are so good. But anyway, that set was fun. It was glamorous fun.
Was the kitchen, so those were locations, because even the tile on the kitchen floor when Alec Baldwin falls down is perfect. And I was like, they had to have, that's so period. I wonder if that was in this location. I mean, I know that's like an art department thing, but.
No. The kitchen, the cabinets they belonged to the house. Missy Parker was a buyer then. It was great. And we switched out, I think we had them custom painted, in the avocado green, the refrigerator and the appliances. And then I think the art department changed out the floor.
Yeah.
But I'd have to look at the scene again to remember.
The tile on the floor is fantastic. If anybody wants to freeze frame that, it's because you get to look at Alec Baldwin.
So for Deirdre's library, where she reads the poem to young Augustine, we built, or the art department built, sort of walls within a TV room that was in the back of the house to turn it into the library. And so that was kind of a built set that we built inside the existing house. So, yeah. And my favorite set in that whole house actually is cut from the film. It was her bedroom where you only see a glimpse of it where the camera's shooting down and she's on the bed. But everything in the room was this white and green fabric, the bedspread, the curtains, the lampshades. It was great. It was a great set, but it got cut from the film.
So how much input did Augustine have? Like, was that true was a lot of it true? Or, I know it's like his reflections of it, so it's exaggerated, I'm sure.
Yes, and it was definitely going to be sort of glamorous and visually interesting, and Augustine in the beginning met with Ryan and I think spoke with Richard, and we talked to him a little bit early on about the house and how crazy it was and how layered it was, but he didn't go into, at least with us, a lot of detail. So we took the little bit of information that we had and kind of went with it. And I remember he visited the set when we were shooting the Finch house, and Richard and I were like, because he had been gone for a while, and Richard and I were like, oh boy, this could be a deal breaker. Like, he could show up and be like, well, this isn't at all what it was like. And
that could be scary.
Yeah, but he showed up and he was thrilled. He's like, this is exactly what it was like. And he was over the moon. I mean, at that point we had stuff coming out of drawers and the Christmas tree that had been in the corner for 10 years.
Oh, that's the best compliment. That really is.
Yeah, and so he was like, and he just was going through the house like this and this and this. And so we were very happy.
I know. I wish there was more of Dr. Finch's bedroom.
Yeah.
Because there's only like that one scene where guy tries to kill him, I think. And I feel like, there was probably some really good stuff in there.
There is. So you want to hear a little funny note about that?
Yes.
You experienced this as a decorator as well. You actually see the room twice. There's a quick scene with Gwyneth Paltrow. I forget her character's name. And she's trying to do like some test on Augustine, and they're kneeling in front of a mirror.
Oh, okay.
The electric shock machine or something.
Oh, yeah.
So that's kind of an angle in the bedroom. So cut to scouting and prep. The enormity of that set and the limitations we had with the budget. When it came to Dr. Finch's bedroom, everybody was, except Richard and I, were like, okay, you don't need to do the entire room. Only do this corner. Only wallpaper this corner. Only dress this corner. I promise you, we will only shoot in this direction.
Okay. Yeah.
Well, never do that, because if you look closely, the dailies came back and they ended up shooting that scene where he's going to try to kill him. Right. Shooting the opposite direction. And I got a call from the onset the next day saying, you're not going to be happy about this, but do you remember the Finch's bedroom and they were only supposed to look to the right? Well, guess what? They looked to the left. They'd taken a big painting and then flipped it on its side and then just covered up the wall that we hadn't wallpapered.
Well, that's only a good onset can help you there.
Right.
And a creative person.
The house was so crazy that the truth is, the reality is you don't really notice it, but
you do.
From that point on, it's like you scout something and they say they're only going to look one way.
Liars.
Liars.
Always liars. Always. You have to dress the whole room, or at least you have to have enough to dress the whole room.
Right.
And you don't, maybe not put it out if you don't want to, but always have enough. Have that in your extra. You can't trust anyone. You can't trust them.
But you learn as you go, right? At every job, there's something you learn from, and you take it with you on the next one, and that's how you build your experience. And then, so
I actually didn't even realize till I just rewatched it that Ryan Murphy directed it.
Yeah, it was his first film directing. Yeah,
and he wasn't even like really Ryan Murphy yet. He was like Nip Tuck. It wasn't like Glee and like all the goodies and everything, but like. Yeah, you've been with him for a long time.
I know. So Ryan knew Richard over the years, and then Richard and I were friends and had worked together on the film before Happy Endings, and so that's how I got introduced to Ryan. And I think they were still on Nip Tuck, and they were shooting at Paramount because that's where our offices were. And right after we finished Running with Scissors, we did a pilot with Ryan called Pretty Handsome.
Right.
And that pilot, which didn't get picked up, I really believe was ahead of its time. Now it would be a hit. It was about a very wealthy socialite doctor and his wife. He was a cross-dresser.
Was it Joseph Fiennes too? Again?
Yes.
Yeah.
Joseph Fiennes. And he was a cross-dresser, and it was kind of this interesting story. And there was a transgender character, and it was kind of ahead of its time, really.
I feel always bad for pilots because really, you make a pilot, everybody puts 1,000% into it, and then when it doesn't get picked up, like that's it, it's gone. Yeah. Some writer worked on that for like 10 years, or producers, and it's gone. Like I always feel so sad for pilots.
No.
I hate doing pilots. I hate him.
Oh, God. I know. And not only that, in pilot season, it's always this panic, because everything's double tagged, triple tagged.
Yeah, it's so busy in our little world. It's panic. I hope you like Richard because you did Happy Endings, Running with Scissors, Beautiful Creatures, The Gift, Less Than Zero pilot, Pretty Handsome, Tilda. I'm probably forgetting more, but like that's a beautiful run, I would say. That's a good relationship, and I'm sure when you say like he likes to decorate, somewhere along the line, the trust is just there, and then it's like you guys don't even talk probably, and it's just done. Yeah, no, there is a great trust, and I remember sort of like I said, I worked on commercials for a while, and you have to be very fast on commercials. And I would go out and shoot stuff, the table, the chair, whatever it may be, just shoot it, collect your arsenal, look at the pictures later, assemble your set, and then start tagging. Mm-hmm. And Richard was like kind of day one on Happy Endings. He was like, let's just take a look, get a coffee, let's go to lunch, let's look at this. And I'm like, I turned to him, I go, Richard, if this continues, we're going to have to split up. He looked at me and he's like, wait a minute, I'm the boss here. And we were and so that was kind of a running joke with us. Oh my God, that's funny.
But, we developed a very good working relationship and a trust. So that was great.
Is that something, I guess, I'm jumping ahead because now you are designing.
Yeah.
Is that something you hope, like, I hope I get to, like, decorate with someone for a while. I hope, like, I don't know. Or do you like working with new people and new, fresh, and new...
And as a decorator or as a designer?
As a designer.
Well, I worked as a decorator for so many years, and then I also worked with Judy Becker over the years, on and off, and we had a very good relationship. And the most recent project was Ratched, which I came on as the decorator, and then Judy had to go on to do another project, which is when I stepped in and took over on the last 3 episodes of Ratched. So that's kind of was my full intro into designing for a limited series. Now, we had already set a lot of the permanent sets, mm-hmm. right? And I was really carrying on Judy, what we had implemented, Judy being a designer. and just carrying that through so that we had a nice continuous look throughout the show.
Because you also were familiar with her. You had done Ruby Sparks, Battle of the Sexes, Versace. So that,
Correct.
too, you probably had a very good shorthand with her.
We did.
Yeah.
We did. And we do. And so that was a great opportunity. And it was a great opportunity for me. And then came Hollywood when I got offered the job, and I took it, and I was thrilled to have it. And so moving forward, to answer your question, I like working with the same people because it's a safe, comfortable environment, especially if you enjoy them and there's trust, and but of course, nice to meet new people along the way and branch out. Did I answer your question?
Oh yeah. I mean, I think it's hard to say too, because there's something good about both aspects of it. But I'm like you. Like, I've had the same lead man for 10 years. Like, I don't, that's it. Like, I don't want to have to work with anyone else.
Right. It makes it easier.
Yeah.
And then and there's so many, the trust, and it definitely makes it easier.
Yeah.
It's fun.
So after, I really jumped ahead. I'm really jumping around here. Did you want to work in Hollywood? Did you want to design and decorate?
So I knew early on that I wanted to work in film, and it started when I was in third grade, and I was
so awesome. I'm with you so bad.
I mean, it sounds ridiculous, but it's true.
Yeah.
I saw 2 films, and I one was a gangster film with Edward G. Robinson from the 1930s, and the other one was a film called The Snake Pit with Olivia de Havilland.
Ooh.
And it was that film that I can recall a specific scene that affected me in such a way. I was like, I kind of want to do this. I want to learn more about this. And so from that point on, I was, reading about film, watching it, whatever I could. It was before the internet. So believe it or not, I would have my parents drop me off at the library, the Trinity Library in San Antonio, Texas. And I learned how to use the library as a kid because I wanted to go find the film section. Or
that's fantastic.
The Dewey Decimal System.
Yes.
Do you remember microfiche?
I remember microfiche.
I don't think I can do it now, but I was doing it then.
Poor Dewey.
So Dewey's Decimals. So I wanted to direct is what I sort of started as, and I got a little Super 8 film camera. I got my neighbors. We would make these movies in my house, and then I would take them to get developed, and we would project them a week later. And
oh my God, that's so great.
I know.
Do you still have them?
I do. I need to transfer them onto they've been in storage for a long time.
Oh my God, that's great.
I just pulled them out. I need to put them into.
Well, you had 5 months.
I know. What have I been doing exactly? I did, for instance, there was one film that I did. I don't know. I was all of 12 years old or 13. I don't know. Called The Moths. MOTHS. And so ran around like the birds, people running down the street. And then when the film came out, I took a little pin and I laid the strip across a glass table with a flashlight below it, and I would scratch the film.
Wow.
So then it's frame, and it was like time consuming. And then when you would run the film through the projector, the scratches fluttered around like moths above our head, attacking us.
That is so great, and it is so creative, and shows such passion.
I mean,
that
I don't
is
know.
So great.
Yeah. So then, I studied film communications and film theory at Emerson College in Boston and in American University. And then afterwards, I took a little bit of a bypass, and instead of heading directly to LA, I moved to San Francisco. And I started working as a PA. And I met a location manager on a set of a TV show that they were filming one day. And I basically lied and kind of made myself sound like I knew what I was talking about. And she ended up hiring me on a TV movie.
That's my everyday. I lie.
I know, right? I'm still lying. No, and so that's kind of, and then worked as a PA for just trying to figure it out. And then I started working, not very good, but as a second, more like sort of key set PA at base camp, and then kind of got into the art department.
Oh wow!
And And then I started coming back and forth to LA and getting jobs in LA. And then eventually I was working in the art department as a set dresser and then as a buyer. And then I moved to LA and then I got in as a decorator.
Oh, that's fantastic. That's great. Because I always feel every position that you're going to have, you're going to learn. So even like you being a second, you're still learning that department and how that interacts with all the other departments. And
absolutely,
it's so vital. And later on, because then you can say like, no, they're doing that, or no, I have to do that. They don't do that, or this is this is who I communicate with to get this done.
Right. And I also kind of took a slow route. I'm kind of slow with everything. Maybe I'm not the fastest mover in terms of my own personal career, but I really am so grateful that I do have the experience working as a buyer, kind of as a set dresser. I wasn't very good, and as a decorator, and even as a PA, so that, for instance, when I was decorating, working with buyers and being able to recognize, okay, you're doing an excellent job, or okay, I need you to pick it up here, and you're not pulling your weight, and being able to say that and recognize that with confidence because I know I've done the job.
Yes, I know.
Do you know what I mean? I'm not saying that in a mean way. I'm just saying
no, I know
exactly the job. So, and
I think too, I get very passive aggressive. And I'm like, I'll just do it. It's cool.
That too.
I'll just do it.
It's so much easier because then you're like, it's no time for conflict, or you don't have to say. Yeah.
But it takes a better boss to say like, hey, no, this isn't the right direction. I'm so, I don't know if I gave you the wrong info or whatever, but you gotta go back, because especially now as in decorating and designing, we have so much to do. This is why we have buyers. This is why we have art directors and assistant art directors. It's like we have to divide it up and conquer.
And a set deck coordinator is so important, and it is a position that needs to really be.
Yes,
I'm on a crusade for the set deck department. Because it's such an important position, and I have been on movies that didn't have them, and they wouldn't give it to me. And Battle of the Sexes is one.
Was that fun to do? Was that because you got to do period? That's always fun.
Yes, that the directors are a husband and wife, John and Val, and they did Little Miss Sunshine, which is a great film.
Love that movie.
I think they're great storytellers. And I've known them for so long because they work in commercials, and they've done hundreds of commercials. They have a production company called Bob Industries. I don't know if they still have it. So I knew them coming into the project, and I'd worked with Judy on Ruby Sparks. And so I was very excited about this project. It was challenging. It's one of the films I'm really proud of, the finished product. But the journey to get there was a challenging one. And sometimes it happens, we had so many motels.
Yeah. I was just going to ask about all the motels.
And, after a while I was like, how do we make these motel rooms look different, and, John and Val would come to the set, and sometimes there'd be these last minute changes. Like you do on commercials, where
I don't like that.
Commercial. I know.
I don't like that.
It's tough. It's challenging. It's actually scary,
yeah.
But on a commercial, I'm not saying this is why they do it. They're just very creative. But on a commercial, you've got a lot of additional set deck hanging around, and people are like, get in the truck and go get this. And so there were moments of that here and there. And so that was a little nerve-wracking at times. But I'm so proud of that show, and I think the way it was shot, it looks like a 70s film. Yeah,
it looks older. It looks.
We shot it on 35 millimeter. Linus, I can never pronounce his last name. He's a great cinematographer, and in the prep, John and Val were like, we want this to look like a 1970s film, like a Robert Altman film. And Nashville, coincidentally, was playing at the ArcLight. It was like the 30th anniversary or something. So we all went to go see it. And it's a lot of compressed images and kind of a pan with a zoom. Mm-hmm. Stuff that they did in Robert Altman and those films, or the parallax view. So yeah, it was. And I think Emma Stone is is a real talent. And I think she did a very good job portraying Billie Jean King.
Was there input of, like, just research of the events and everything? I mean...
there was a ton of research of the events.
Yeah.
Definitely of the match at the end, the Battle of the Sexes. Judy, that's one thing with Judy. She does a ton of research.
Steve Carell's house is really good in that, too.
What's that?
Steve Carell's house. I forget whose character.
That's a great house. Yeah. I have a story about that house.
It's a great house.
But I will tell you that, so Judy Becker does a ton of research, and it's great. And so she's already started the research. So by the time I get there, there's already this kind of platform of the look and of the research that we then pull from, be on the walls of our department and go out and just kind of pull from that. I fabricated a lot of stuff for that show. Mm. So Steve Carell's house, Judy came into my office one day and she was like, I still haven't found Bobby's house. I don't know what I'm going to do. And I said, well, what about a Paul Williams house? And she's like, oh, that's interesting, And then literally the next day, it was in the paper, the location manager said that this Paul Williams house that was once owned by Connie Stevens had been sold, and there was an estate sale. Oh. And so, what do you got? Like a magic ball there? I love me a great 1960s TV starlet. And so Stevens, so I'm driving over Mulholland, I don't know from where, coming back from Omega or something, and Judy calls me. She's like, you got to go to this house. There might be some great things that we could use for set deck, and go check it out. Let's see how it looks. And so I literally just took a left turn on Benedict Canyon and went straight over there. And it was like a blast from the past. So we ended up using that house.
Oh my God, that's great. Look at you coming up. You should got a location fee for that.
I know, exactly. Oh, it was fun though, because I went in these rooms and there was kind of this faded wallpaper. There wasn't much furniture. There was the random 1980s bugle bead dress on on a sofa, and an album of Connie Stevens on the ground. It was crazy. But we had to redress it. Obviously, there was not much there.
Right. But still, that's a great, those are great bones to go off of.
Absolutely. And the house has then been, remodeled, redone, and all of that kind of original, those original details, I think a lot of them are gone or have been, transformed into something more contemporary and current. So we got it at the right moment.
Oh, that is I watched that on a plane, I remember. And then I thought, I got to watch this again. So I've seen it at least twice, because I was like, I got to watch it again. The screen was too small. There was so much going on. It was so good, visually.
Yeah, good. I'm very proud of it. Yeah. I really am. And I love the beauty parlor. I would love to maybe have seen a couple more wide shots. But, but the beauty parlor was a location that Judy found. It's on Wilshire.
God, I thought that was a set.
Yeah, no, everything on the interior. It was a shell. So it was basically those windows, those kind of pill-shaped windows. Mm-hmm. It was on the corner of maybe Normandy and Wilshire. And so it wasn't an easy location because it was very noisy. It wasn't insulated, but then we brought everything in. The rugs. We had the makeup tables.
There's nothing better than doing a period beauty store. Shop.
There's nothing better. And I love Judy's design on the wall with the kind of flesh, the fleshy pink tones was really the color palette for that movie. And so we really tried to keep that throughout.
She has a very distinct way of designing with color.
Yes, absolutely. She is all about color.
Yeah.
And actually, I've learned from that. It's very, very specific with color, and going through and making all kinds of paint samples of different saturations and tones of, let's say, a pink or a green or a blue or whatever the color may be.
Yeah. There are certain designers that I've worked with where their whole offices are nothing but, the 1 by 1 or, 18 by 18, just color samples.
Yes.
And I always think like, whoa, beautiful mind, settle down. But
I actually did that.
You have to do it. Yeah, you have to do it.
You have to do it. And I'll tell you, on Ratched, so I started off as the decorator, and then I took over. We had all of these paint samples that Judy had Damon put together, the lead scenic head painter. And so when we would go scout, and I did have a few builds on those episodes that I did, I would pull from these boards. And so it was this great arsenal to kind of go through and say, okay, well, let's flip through this. And here's what Judy put together. This is a good shade of green. So why don't we pull this? And it was almost like playing cards, and put them together. So it's kind of it's like, as a decorator, we go out and we shop for sofas or lamps, and you built up this arsenal. Yeah. And then all of a sudden you get a curveball, you have a set, and you're like, well, wait a minute, what about that lamp that I saw at so-and-so on the third floor? Mm-hmm. It's kind of the same idea with paint colors. It's
that memory sense of like, oh, I have to remember that lamp, or that's really great. I'll put that in my bank, my memory bank. But I would say, with Ratched, I had the luxury of kind of forcing myself to get a little extra prep. And with it, I had 3 days by myself where I did, like a crazy person, this loop, because I like to get out and I like to see. Sometimes you can't, as you know, when you're decorating, you just can't go out and see everything. But I love it. It makes me feel more confident. And so I spent 3 days just going around and shooting everything that I thought remotely could work. Oh, that's what I do at the beginning of every show.
Yes.
If I have the prep, I go out and shoot a ton of stuff of like, okay, maybe this will work at some point, or look at this, so at least I know that this is there, because the prop house has changed things over, or there's something that's been there forever, but now it works for you.
Correct. You see the whole new set of eyes on every show. Yeah. So and in Dropbox, I had my folder MFF 1210, which was the day that I did this folder of, numerous pictures. So Ginny Harris, who was one of the buyers, and Melissa Licht, we would joke. I'm like, well, sometimes I shop at 1210 for the set. Find the Unity or Omega, I'll tend to shop at, MFF 1210.
Yeah. That's fantastic. You got to open up. You got your own prop house. You got to get your.
Prop 10 is valuable. I still have it.
That's awesome. I do remember though, because I want to jump into Versace, but the amount of research that you guys did for that show.
Yeah.
But when you do research and you have all those color boards, or you have all those carpet samples, or you have like for us, like the fabric and the upholstery and all of this, when you're in your own madness, it makes sense.
Right.
But when I walked into that Versace art department, I was like, oh my God, this is like, every single surface had a research board. Every single surface was covered with carpet sample books or paint swatches or fabric. Like everything, every usable space was used, and then there was something on top of it. And I was like, oh my God, what have I gotten into? Like, how long have you guys been here? How long have you guys lived here?
Oh my God. So can I, yes, there was like I said, quite a bit of research and a lot of boards everywhere for, the bars, the house, the Miglin's house. And, but again, when you're in it and we're in the boards and they start to ring true, and then when there's a very specific color palette as a decorator that was given to me, it just made my job so much easier. And
it does.
Right? For you too.
Yeah, it does. And
you can self-edit as you go.
Yeah. And it helps. And it helps the buyers, everyone to be on the same page. It totally helps. And it also helps when, let's just say something is called out, like, I don't like that, it's not right. And you'd be like, okay, well, I was just going off of the palette.
Right.
Okay, I was just going off of the research. Like,
yeah, exactly. So I have to say, and I hope you don't mind me saying this, but so I was on Versace, and as you know, those shows can be very, very stressful at times, and the schedule was getting crazy. And I remember I just finished dressing a set, and we'd opened it, and we were shooting, and for Judy's job, Jamie McCall and Adam came up to me, and they looked a little timid and a little like, Matthew, we just want to talk to you about something. I'm like, well, someone died? What's going on? And like, how would you feel? Now, don't take this person, but how would you feel if we brought in another decorator? And I like jumped. I was like, are you kidding me?
I would have said, go fuck yourself. How
I
dare
like,
you? That's what I would have said.
No, but not to replace me, to sort of take over, because I think there were so many sets that we still owed. And then we had the boathouse coming up. And so I was like, yes, absolutely. I love the idea. And that's where I got to meet you, which was so great.
Which
and then
was
you
fantastic. I don't even think I saw you, though.
No, but a little bit. But there was a moment where, because you did, I remember you were doing the boathouse, which is the big dramatic finale.
Yeah, I did see you then.
And I remember Jamie had a meeting, and you were there, and I walked in, and the set was pretty dressed, and I recognized, the pink chairs from Warner, or this and that, and I just thought it looked so good. And I just thought you did such a great job with it.
But for me, the pressure for me to come on to something like that is I need to respect and keep up with what you have done. And that's the first time I've ever done it. And I just kept thinking, like, well, this is weird. Like, did they use this chair before? Like, can anybody just verify? Like, I remember going to your buyers and being like, hey, can you just tell me, like, did you use this? And it was like, I think we used that over there, but I don't think we ever saw it. And I'm like, okay. That was a hard part of just wanting to get up to your level, because you did this incredible show, which, I mean, I watched it and I can't even believe you did all of that all yourself. It's I so did just much.
Florencia Martin started the beginning, and then she left, so I came in. But yes, it was so much, and thank you.
So
but seriously, I thought that set looked so good, and I remember kind of going, oh, this looks freaking awesome, great job, and we were both we didn't know each other, and I'm glad we got that opportunity, because it's not often that decorators get to work on.
I say that all the time. Like, we never really get to work with each other, and you were so nice. You were so nice, and then you were so nice when it aired. You called me and said it looked good, and I was like, oh my God, I'm such an asshole. I should have called him on the first episode and said how good it looks. Like, I'm watching every week. Like, I can't wait to see what he's done. And you didn't even call him. Like, you're such an asshole.
Okay. No, it's all good. No, not at all.
But seriously, you were on that show for or that show was up for almost a year.
Yeah, it was. I can't remember how long I was, because again, I did come on and it had already started. So, but it was a lot. It was a lot, and that was my first.
That was like your first TV, right?
I believe so.
Ish? Yeah.
Yeah.
You snob.
Yeah. Well, why not?
Yeah. But to be, to get into the Versace world isn't bad. I mean,
yeah,
it was so so exuberant, some of those sets, and so like.
I loved the Miglin hats. It's such a grim episode 103. Miglin was all white. Again, that was sort of a strict palette. Everything has got to be white. So we had like a lot of custom and reupholstery and custom drapery, and Regina, of course, did a fabulous job. But even with all the difficult things we had to pull together, going back to a very strict color palette for me just makes it so much easier. You can just go through and like, okay, this, no, not that, this, and this. When you have to move at such a rapid clip sometimes, you know?
You're mentioning that your draper, Regina Graves, right? Regina Graves?
No, Regina Henderson.
Regina Henderson. I don't know why I'm saying Graves, sorry.
Regina Henderson. So great.
She's so great. I've worked with her on Veep, and I tried to get her just for this past one. But she's fantastic. She knows what she knows, period. She knows the swag. She knows, like, well, you can't do it there. You don't have enough space. And you're like, what? Like, Like, no, you're not going to have enough room to do this. And you're like, oh, okay. No, a great draper will save you.
Oh, big time.
Yeah. It's an unsung little world. And they're, when you get to have a draper, which is another position you don't always get to have.
No, I know.
It's
luxury.
It's such a luxury. And it's
unbelievable.
I feel like it's so old Hollywood to have like a draperer.
I think that's another position that should be, I mean, obviously it's sort of script driven. If there's not a lot of drapery, then maybe it's not but I really think it's a very necessary position. I said on Battle, on commercials, I would do drapery myself. Me and my lead man would go, we'd measure, I'd pull from a maker or have something made. Linda would make this or whatever. We'd hang it up, shoot it. But when I did, I had never really worked with a draper.
I never had a draper until Veep. I never had one.
Until Versace. And so I just was like such a luxury. I was like, okay, how do we talk? I mean, because I normally do this. And I quickly realized all the work that I was doing before, how much stress it took off of me. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, yeah. Because diving through Warner Brothers drapery to try to find 284 legs of a period, curtain that you need.
In between 100 texts and 100 phone calls and then measurements, and then you're applying it to a set on stage where they have a lot of soffits or they have a radius or they have a return and there's not just a normal window, then you're into some really big applications.
Or like the problem that I always run into of like, hey, Kim, the draper you got, it has grommets. And I'm like, oh, can we hang it upside down and just cut it? Like, I don't shit.
Put some blue tape and tape it behind.
Yeah. I mean, I've done some, like, wacky shit. But I'm like, well, it'll be behind the sofa. Just cut it. Just turn it upside down and just cut it. I don't care. Like, I've gone, ghetto on it.
So, one of my early jobs when I was sort of trying to get into the art department was still PAing. I got to assist Catherine Martin and Bridget, I can never pronounce her last name, she's now a designer herself, on the reshoots of Romeo and Juliet.
Which is one of my favorite films. Yeah.
And it was like a month-long job, and Catherine, and I was just there to help, whatever they needed. And they were in a rhythm, and I remember Catherine Martin talking about some drapery in a way like we're talking about, like, oh, don't worry about it. Just get a little bit of curtain, little red curtain, put it there. We'll be fine. You do this. And I could tell that she knew what she was talking about, even though it sounded kind of silly and kind of rickety-rack. And she was saying it in kind of a funny way, but I knew that I could tell by her confidence and how she was describing what she wanted, that I was envious of this world that they were in, and this vibe and this rhythm. And I was like, I want to work in this. This is what I want to do. Yeah. And so then I started working more and more in the art department.
I think, too, though, I was very scared of drapery for a very long time.
Yeah.
And missed a lot of opportunities of making window statements in my dressing. And not really until Veep and doing, like, real research and really learning, like, names and festoons and sweeps, like, all that shit. Really diving into it. Because I had a draper, but I didn't want to not know what she was talking about and just, like, fake it, kind of. Be like, oh, yeah, cool. And then show up and be like, oh, shit. That's not what I wanted at all. So
that's what that means. Yeah. Honestly, if I don't know something, I'll say, what are you talking about? What is that? I mean, I'm always doing that.
Oh, well, yeah. I usually just turn my back and then, like, look shit up.
Yeah.
I do it all the time. But, yeah. And you had extraordinary drapery on that show. Like, the one set that stands out to me was like a white round room. Was that the episode you're talking about too? Was like...
Are we talking about Versace?
Versace, yeah.
Yes, yeah. That's that would be probably the Miglin house.
Yes. That set stands out to me. It was so perfectly done.
Yeah, and there was very few smalls. Everything was white. It was very stylized. It was very sterile. And I think it gave a very uneasiness to, it added an uneasiness to that episode and to the horrific crime that Cunanan did when he murders Mr. Miglin in the garage, which was also white. Everything was white. I think the car was red, but everything else was white. The garage was a build on stage. The house that we used was even though it was a Chicago townhome, we scouted and Jamie found a house in Hancock Park, which we then seriously plugged walls to make it as small but still camera crew friendly, so that it appeared more vertical and narrow versus horizontal and long and sprawling. So we plugged a lot, in the entryway where there's a stairs, she's sitting at the stairs.
Right.
There's a plug right there, but that really led into a dining room, which led into another room, but we plugged that. You look the other way into the living room, which played as the living room, and we plugged all, in there or Jamie did. I shouldn't say we, Jamie plugged it, to make it look sort of more like a Chicago townhome.
Yeah, I thought you shot it in Chicago at a townhome.
The exterior, good. Movie magic, right? The exterior, they did go on location. I didn't go. Jamie went, and they shot the exterior walk up and the arrival before she enters the home in Chicago or Evanston or somewhere. I'm pretty sure.
No, the work that went into Versace to me is like ridiculous.
It was a lot.
It was so good. Yeah.
I mean, again, the houseboat. I mean, that was a big set.
Yeah, but guess what? She said to me, you can dress it, but then they're going to take a lot out. And they took out 50% of what I dressed.
Did they?
Yeah. And I dressed there was tons of research photos.
Right.
And I got this, it was all blurry, sort of like VHS, off of a VHS or whatever, and you do it again. But yeah, they took out a bunch, and I always feel like, oh, I'm glad I had it there. At least I had it there, and they could take it out.
Absolutely.
Only certain things hurt my feelings when they get taken out, but I guess.
But that could also have been sort of I sort of know Ryan doesn't like.
Yeah, it was Ryan.
Smalls. He doesn't like, and so sort of going into it, the whole series was pretty. I mean, yes, it was dressed. Of course, there were things, but it was kind of sparse or tried, and so I think trying to maintain that probably throughout is why they did that. Yeah. But I thought it looked great when I saw it and on the screen. So
I think it was eerie. And even though it wasn't his house, I mean, the whole reality of he broke into somebody's house, and
depressing.
It was weird. And it was weirdly dressed like this. That to me is cool too. I'm like, whenever you see when you scout houses, and you're like, oh my god, I can't wait for you to see this house. You got to go in the bedroom, or you got to go see what they got going on in there. Like, how people really live is fascinating.
It can give you some good ideas too.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. There's a folder on Dropbox for that.
Yes, absolutely.
So you're in the Ryan Murphy world.
Yes. I guess I am.
You are. Oh, you're in.
I think you might be in it too.
I'm dipping my toes. So you do you're decorating Ratched, you take over, and then you do Hollywood. Was it just like Hollywood's coming up next, you're in, right? Was it that?
Pretty much. Yeah, I mean, there was talk of Hollywood, there was talk of Prom, and then there was another show, Boys in the Band,
Oh, right, in New York.
Correct. But they built that, we shot that in LA, and that is what Judy went to go do. Mm-hmm. And so that's when I stepped up, like I said earlier, on Ratched and did the last 3 episodes. And then we also recreated the Philippine hospital unit on the beach, or in the Philippines, a hospital unit on the beach with a whole flashback sequence when Mildred, you learn sort of the early stages of why she became who she was when she was in the war. So that was a big undertaking. But so when we were wrapping, I remember we were on the back lot of Fox because we were shooting a bunch of sets that we did out there. And Eric came to me. He's like, okay, Ryan wants you to do Hollywood. And I really didn't, I was still trying to get into the guild and doing that and getting in the guild. And then I said, okay, I had a week off, literally 1 week, and then started on Hollywood. But I know, right? I have to say, and honestly, I probably shouldn't say this. I'm not the person. Most people at the end of a job are like, so, hey, what's your next job? What are you going to do next? I'm never that guy, even though I do continue to work, luckily, knock on wood. But I'm thinking about time off.
Yeah, yeah, me too.
I'm going to go home and do my wash.
I am and I'm not. I want to be cool and I want to be like, whatever comes. But then I get like, wait a minute. I got a call for this. Should I take this? Wait, don't take this. Wait, no. I heard about this. This could come up. Oh, this is the worst part of our job. Making decisions. I'm going to make the wrong decisions. Just somebody tell me what to do. Somebody tell me what to do.
Yes. So, but, going back, just touching back on sort of my sort of love and passion for old films, filmmakers, and Hollywood. And so the subject matter I was thrilled about.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
We had just done a show, very different look, that was in the 40s, completely different. And so it was a great opportunity for me. And I'm thrilled that I got it because I love the subject matter and I enjoy period. I like doing period. I
really think when you watch Hollywood, it's one of the it's a show or it's really a long form movie or whatever that people will go back and reference. Hey, did you see that in Hollywood? Like that's the type of period, like that's what we should do.
Huh. Well, that would be great.
I think it's gorgeously done, and it must have been so exciting to deep dive into these old Hollywood locations.
Absolutely, and recreating a fictitious, studio and building all the interiors on a soundstage, A Studios, which is sort of a hybrid of kind of RKO and Paramount.
Yeah.
So that was great, from the editing rooms to the makeup and hair suite to the Starlit classroom, the commissary, the executive offices, the hallways. And then when we were outside in the real world, early on, you have your palette, you have your color palette, and I really wanted to have an architectural palette. Mm-hmm. And so the little bit that we see, I wanted to try to touch on the different architectural movements that were happening in the early part of the 20th century in Los Angeles. Because, back then, people were flocking to Hollywood to work in the industry. It was this booming business. And so developers and architectural firms were building to house them. Mm-hmm. So I started to research and look at architects from that time. And there was one in particular, and I'm not going to say the name. I think it's Wallace, Clements and Walls. Mm-hmm. Oh. Anyway, that firm, they did the Wiltern, the Pantages Theater, a lot of buildings in Hollywood, downtown, mid-Wilshire. So, for instance, the bank that Henrietta and Jack go to try to get a loan, which is in episode 1, it's this fabulous shell of a bank, this Art Deco building, and that architectural firm had built that. The exterior of, you see it very quickly, of what we used for Western costume was another building that was built in the early 20s by this firm. So that was great to kind of be able to get some of that architecture, and then the Spanish, colonial revival.
Oh yeah.
Garden apartments, and of course Hollywood Regency, and then Art Deco, and to try to touch on those. So yeah, and LA's got such fabulous architecture.
And like you're saying, like it touches on, like it has Spanish, and then it has the colonial, and there's this, like, those two don't mix. But yet it was so popular back then. It's sort of this Los Angeles Hollywood casual lifestyle that was sort of with these garden apartments, and then Hollywood Regency and Paul Williams, such a prolific architect, mm-hmm. and so I definitely wanted to get. That's for George Cukor's house. We used 4 different locations, 2 of them which were builds.
But the interior was a beautiful house designed and built by Paul Williams in Beverly Hills that we redid. And then the exterior, because that party scene was so involved.
Yeah, the pool.
Yeah, the pool. We couldn't find everything we needed at one location. So then found a beautiful sort of 1930s house in Pasadena that sat on about 2 acres with a pool, and kind of redid the cabana and a tennis court. So we shot that stuff there. And then for the scenes with Vivian Lee and Ernie, we built that on stage. And then the cottage with Dick Samuels and Rock, we built that on the stage as well. So it took 4 separate locations to make that whole party sequence work.
It's magic.
Movie magic.
It's all you can say is like it's magic, and how much time and effort it took to pick all those locations, to make them look the same, to make the flow of it, to make the story work, and then edit it, and then it's incredible, really, that we get anything done.
I know. It kind of is. There was one house, beautiful house in Beverly Hills that almost could have provided quite a bit. But the problem is in Beverly Hills, and we had so much night exterior, it wasn't an option. Right. So that's why we had to kind of bounce around to piece this together. And I think for the most part it works, you know.
Oh, yeah.
So that was sort of great to kind of be able to have that sort of style. And also George Cukor had this infamous house that was kind of a Regency style home up in, above Sunset Plaza, I believe. And then later on, he hired John Wolfe, the architect and designer, to build 3 guest houses, one of which Spencer Tracy and Katharine Hepburn lived in.
The stories are so great.
The Hollywood stories, right?
The Hollywood stories are just so great.
And it's fun. That was fun, too, because the images and the research that I had, in the office and in the art department and in my office was just fun. I mean, I was like late night Xeroxing and our art department coordinator, we were like Xeroxing this and all the Kodachrome sort of 1940s movie star portraits. That was kind of fun to do. I got a licensing deal with Getty Images, which wasn't cheap.
No, not at all.
And so it was kind of a bit of a battle. Battle's the wrong word, but it was
worth
just a fight to get, or a real kind of conversation to be able to have that, to get it. And it was totally worth it. So we had all the portraits, Lana Turner, Vivian Lee, Humphrey Bogart, framed and on the walls. And I've said this many times now, but Melissa Licht, the decorator, she was able to find the commissary chairs that were actually used at the Warner Brothers commissary back in the 40s.
Isn't that fantastic?
They were now in the prop house. I love it. Yeah, it was so great. So, they'd been used over and over and over again and painted black. And so we restored them and sanded them and painted them in our color palette.
But that's why I think Warner Brothers is really
so great.
Such a shining gem in our little world.
Robert has done an amazing job.
Yeah.
It has changed over the years and become such a, not that it wasn't great, and Ronnie did a fantastic job too, but, times change and I think it's great.
Yeah, curating set dressing to be consistently rented, and also I think knowing when to let someone manipulate things is a real talent.
Like to manipulate them in terms of how they're displayed to rent?
No, like, okay, I'll let you reupholster that.
Oh, correct. Absolutely.
Okay, you can paint those chairs. You don't have to paint them back. We are allowed sometimes. And sometimes they say no, and that's fine. But if you ask, sometimes you're like, listen, I love these chairs, but I need to reupholster them. If I pay for it, will you let us do it? And they say yes. And I should say with, your Versace stuff, you upholstered so much stuff. And then took it all off, right?
We had everyone work.
Uh-oh, you went out there.
I just lost you a little bit.
I lost you. The last thing I heard was you had everyone work.
Yes, and then I didn't hear what you said.
Oh, I said I lost you.
So yes, we had everybody working in town at one point. They couldn't take. We had more stuff to upholster. We had the guys and the men and women at Warner Brothers, and then we had Omega. We had Sophie Love. I mean, we were cranking it out.
But then you took it all off.
What? And then I did what?
Didn't none of the Versace
and we had to take it all off.
Fabric could be used again. You took it all
Correct.
off. Yeah, right? Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
but that's the deal. I mean, you didn't want someone else using it and or they couldn't use it again. I mean, I get it. I think that was fantastic.
Yeah, we did. We had to take it off. There might be couple of chairs that are still have it. I feel like I was up, on the third floor of WB, and I think, oh, look at these chairs. Somehow they sneaked by. Oh,
Yeah.
well, that's fine. I might need them again.
Yeah. No, put it in your file.
Yeah, exactly. 1210.
Do you have a favorite set on on Hollywood that you designed?
Gosh, I like all of them. I really liked Jack's apartment, which we built on a soundstage. I think the scale, it feels right.
Yeah.
And I love the sort of heavy plaster walls with the kind of archway details and the kitchenette. So I like that set. I love Avis's office, and I like the commissary and Schwab's, of course, which was such a historically driven set. There was a certain amount of responsibility and pressure that I felt to be able to do that set justice, because it has so much Hollywood history attached to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I really enjoyed all of the sets. I guess coming from a decorator background with Jack's apartment, my crew and Melissa and everyone was sort of joking. It kind of started with a curtain, and I built the whole set around some curtains that, I was thinking of old 40s films, and there was a film, there's a scene in a film, Kiss of Death, where Richard Widmark goes to this lady's house and he eventually kills her. And there's this small little modest apartment, and she's in the other room, and there's not a door, there's just some curtains that separate the room. And I just thought it was so great, and it just stuck in my head. And so with Jack's apartment, which was scripted as an efficiency, we had to shoot it. So it needed to be a little big so that we could get in there, but not, obviously not too big. They don't have much money. So that's where the curtains came in to sort of separate the bedroom area. So everyone joked like, okay, we built this whole set around a pair of curtains.
But I'm always very appreciative when the designer will say, well, why don't you get some fabric and then we'll pick some colors from there. Like, we'll try to go blues, or like, let's do deep reds or whatever.
Right.
And then because it makes it sometimes so much easier for us as decorators to then build around that, rather than like, oh, this is the wall color, now I gotta go find all this.
Right.
So it's always nice, and I think it helps everyone to see like when you get the color, like what the complement is, and it's in that fabric, and look, we could pull out the pink in this, and I just always appreciate when it comes from like a fabric example.
Yes. And I sort of expanding on that, I would say, and I'm a big believer in this, and it's just the only way, is like collaboration. And of course, our business, it takes so many of us to really be able to pull things off. So it's such a collaboration from the top to the bottom. And I, even when I was a decorator, I would interview and work with buyers. I'm like, I want your opinion. And even if you didn't agree with me, I want to know, and I want to know why. So you may not agree with me, I may not agree with you, but I want us to be able to have the freedom and the confidence to be able to have input and to work in a collaborative way. And so
it's so important.
It's so important, and it's fun. I mean, it makes it so much more fun, and especially when you're working with talented, fun people, and everyone's kind of just pitching in ideas. You head down a path. Of course, there's a very you have a base of like a foundation of the color palette and of the goal, but then along the way, you kind of branch out. You start to get different ideas, and then you land with the finished product. So I enjoy the process very much. And
you get a day to do it.
Sometimes you get 2 days. Exactly.
No, I know. 2 days.
No. It sounds so nice, like you're talking, but sometimes you have to be really fast about.
But that's where all that like shorthand comes in so handy, I think. Or with someone new and exciting, you're like, oh shit, I would have never thought of that. Okay, cool.
Right.
Or it's, they're not even in the right book, let alone the same page. What am I doing?
No, that's not good.
No.
That's always not fun.
No, it's not good at all. Do you want to stay designing, or do you want to go back and forth? What do you think?
I really enjoy designing, and I think
it sounds like you really like, and you're good at it, obviously.
Well, thank you. Hopefully, we'll see. Maybe the next project, people will be like, "Wait a minute, he didn't know what he's doing."
No.
So no, I think I do. I do want to stay designing. I love decorating, and so this show has certainly learned quite a bit from the show. And
Well, that's great.
You never know what's going to come your way, though. I made something sort of to decorate something really fantastic might come, and it might be the right time. But I think I'm definitely going to pursue designing.
I wonder how much of our world really will be affected by all of this, because there's so many shows that aren't even starting up till, next year.
I know.
So will it be this flood of work, or will it still keep pacing out? I don't know. I really don't know.
I don't know either. And I sort of question if people are just trying to see how it goes, like a case by case business. Like with Prom, I guess that was very successful.
Yeah.
I was speaking with Eric the other day, and Eric Copton, the producer, as you know, with Ryan, and he said that Prom went very well, and so I think you guys are the next test case.
Yeah, I think we are.
I don't know. Maybe, I don't mean to make it sound like that, because it's hard to know how it's going to work. Really,
I'm really overwhelmed right now with
I know. You know what? Day one is never, and I know this isn't really day one, but in a way it is, because you're coming back into it. Day one for me has always been kind of a day that I've never liked. I've always been kind of depressed and like, okay, what's it? Everyone's
so daunting.
Daunting, exactly.
Yes.
It's so funny. I was like, the job ends, I'm depressed, I don't have work, and when I get at work, I get a job, I get depressed.
Yeah. Well, you were saying before, you don't really like in the beginning of oh, can I do this? I have the same feelings.
Yeah,
something funny is when you have prep, the first week or something, you're getting in there, you're doing your own research, you're focusing on these minuscule things, and the buyers who were on Ratched and Hollywood are now with me, Jane Madden and Ashley Rice, and so they came right off of Hollywood. They maybe had a week off or something, and so when they started, I was in la la prep land, and they were like, okay, where should I go? Should I go check this? Should I go do this? And I was like, whoa, you're killing my prep buzz. You gotta settle down, girls, because
now you need them back at that level.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure they're ready. Yeah, we're all ready. I've been very lucky. We've all had happy hour almost every week together.
Oh, that's great.
So that's great. It's been great because I've never worked with them before, and so getting to know them has been really great.
They were great. I really enjoyed working. Not as a decorator, but definitely enjoyed working with them, and they both were great.
They're really good.
We had a happy hour as well when we got the nomination.
Yes, I heard. That's awesome.
Yeah, so we all got together on Zoom and had a toast, and it was nice to see everyone's faces, albeit on the computer, but still to be able to say, congratulations to all of us. Yeah.
No, it is a congratulations. It's a lot of hard work, and it's acknowledged, and it's really great. I'm bummed for anyone nominated that you don't get that regular nomination season, with the parties. I feel bad.
I remember you telling me about those in the past, and I don't know otherwise. And so I'm bummed on one hand, but I'm also so thrilled that I don't know any other anything different. So it's okay. There's a really
next time.
Hopefully there's the next time.
Yes. I think you got a good shot there. I think you better get your speech ready.
Oh, well, thank you. There's some heavy hitters. It's a bit intimidating or humbling to be in the company of such talented people. Seriously.
It is a hard category because there's so many different errors and like period, and it's a catch-all kind of.
Right.
It's hard. Right.
Watchmen is in there. Watchmen's in there. Excuse me, Westworld being like sort of the fantasy part of the category, I think.
Westworld, Morning Show, Hollywood, Watchmen, and Big Little Lies, I believe.
No. It's the Marvelous Mrs. Maisel.
Oh.
The Crown.
Oh, I'm completely I'm in a different category. I'm so sorry.
You're in 2020.
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
That's okay. It's good. It's the Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, Crown, Hollywood, Watchmen, and I believe Westworld. Right?
Well, Crown already won. I think it's really hard to repeat. They're all
beautiful shows. They're all really, really, really well done shows. I've been watching them, and they're all really, for what they are, they're just so well done and crafted.
Yeah.
I think.
I mean, we all know everyone works really hard. That's the thing of it. In this time off, have you watched anything good?
I have watched, when I'm working, it's so hard for me to watch anything because my time off, I want to just be outside or catching up. So I've seen the first season of The Morning Show, which I absolutely loved. I watched all of Ozark.
I love Ozark.
What's that?
I love Ozark.
Wow. That was pretty intense. And then I thought it was, both of them are such good actors, I think. And watched Dead to Me. And I have Criterion, which is a great channel that streams old films, new films, foreign films, and it's always the Criterion Collection.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've been watching some sort of old Japanese films from the 40s and 50s, which are beautiful. By a very prolific Japanese filmmaker. I can never say his first name, but his last name is Ozu. And trying to think what else on Netflix.
Listen, just because you work for a Netflix, you don't always have to work for Netflix.
No. I know, but I'm just saying there's so, I was about to say The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel is such a beautiful show.
It is. It is well done. But they won. They won already.
Did you see the first season of The Morning Show?
I did.
I really loved it. And
I did too. I thought it was good.
I thought the end sequence with the use of audio when Jennifer Aniston's character is kind of having her breakdown on the set, and she kind of turns to the cameraman and she's like, "Oh, I didn't know your name. What's your name? Well, come in. I want you to pull in for a close-up."
Yeah.
And then we cut and we're outside and we see the producer who's just lost his job and his life, and he's in Central Park screaming. And there's this beautiful music that kind of plays, and it runs throughout a good long segment throughout the entire sequence. And the audio of the dialogue is kind of quieter. Yes. And I just thought it almost took you out of it, but you were still part of this bigger event happening, and I really thought it was so beautifully put together. I just love the end of that.
I did too. I thought it was really well done. I thought it was well acted. I thought that the story was obviously relevant, and I love Steve Carell, so I'm in. Yeah. I'm in for anything Steve Carell, basically.
Yeah. And I think Jennifer Aniston was fantastic, perfectly cast. Yeah. She looked the part. I also saw, I just remembered Little Fires Everywhere, which
I didn't like it.
I love Reese Witherspoon, and it's almost like Tracy Glitch. What was the character?
Oh God, Tracy Glitch, from Election.
Tracy Glitch,
yeah.
It's almost like she grew up, and that's who she became.
That's
Tracy Glitch.
So good.
That is now Tracy Glitch living in suburbia with a nice house, and everything's tailored. And
that's such a good point.
But I enjoyed it. There was a little, getting through a couple of episodes. I thought that the ending was pretty powerful, and that whole moment where she kind of reveals how she feels about her kid, one of her daughters.
Yeah, that's awful.
It is awful, and I also think the '90s is not easy to capture.
No, they're not. No, I'm in that world. I know. I don't like the '90s.
it's very hard to sort of capture as period, and I thought they did such a good job.
They did really well. I thought the design of it was great, and I think I think you're spot on in saying like they captured the 90s, because I specifically watched it and like, what did they do? Because I'm going to be in that world. So yeah, I think the design of it and everything was fantastic.
The white painted round coffee table and the curtains and the pattern on pattern. And so I think I maybe have seen her around. Is Lisa Clark decorated that? Is that right? I think
so. And Jessica Kinder is the production designer.
And I don't know Jessica. Super nice. I did see an interview with her, and I just thought, you know what, I really thought they did such a good job.
I don't know. I guess I wish I read the book.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did watch all of that. I mean, I loved Mrs. America.
Oh, hello. Oh. That was incredible.
Oh, it's so good.
I absolutely loved that. And talk about design. I thought it was spot on.
Yeah.
I loved it. Cate Blanchett is so good in that type of a role.
It's a tough Emmy season.
I mean, I'm surprised that they weren't nominated, to be honest. Can I say that?
Oh, yeah. Of course you can.
Am I allowed? Because I was watching, I was just so impressed with the look of the show.
I'm sure they're really surprised, too.
No, I know. I mean, I'm probably the one that took their spot. They're probably want to beat me up behind the bar, Like, come here, kid.
I think, I said it to you before when we were talking, though. I think it was, everyone puts out their for your considerations and everything, and I think that hurt some shows that they didn't have it.
Right.
So,
yeah.
And maybe that was one of them, but
featurette. I saw a featurette, sort of behind the scenes on the look of the show, and I just anyway, I thought it was really well acted.
Yeah.
I didn't know. I remember Phyllis Schlafly, but I didn't really pay attention to her because I was young, and so it was nice to kind of go back and kind of see it with adult eyes.
Yeah.
And I thought it was really good. Tracy Ullman was great.
Such a nice guy. Such a humble, nice guy. Everyone I've ever asked about him says what a nice guy he is. So super talented. Such great taste. And I'm so glad that we got to speak. I'm excited for his nomination. Anyone nominated, I'm excited for. But because I know it's his first one, and switching from set decorator to designer, that's big. So congrats to him and his team. Really, job well done. And good luck. It's a hard category. It's going to be a tough one. They're all hard. I mean, as we say, it's political, but everyone should just get an award. I'm not one of those people who like to give out everybody gets a trophy for kids, because I don't think it's right. But I don't know, at this point, we all work really hard. Now we're all going to be working really harder, I'm telling you. We should all just get a little gold statue. Really have some great interviews coming up with, I still have Gabriel Hardman, the storyboard artist, illustrator. I have Jeff Rosenberg, who is a second AD turned director. I have the talented Jamie McCall, who I think should have been nominated for Pose or Politician, just wonderful looking shows. And I've got one of me, just talking about the art department, and I know, I have so much good stuff for you. You don't even know. I do think, starting this show, it's gonna start to get busy for me. So I think I'm gonna go back to 2 podcasts a month, which I hope audience sticks with it, and maybe it'll make you want one of it more. But I think just for quality control and schedule-wise, and plus I have 2 babies, I'll fit them in somehow. I think probably in September I'm going to go back to the 2 per month schedule. So thank you for the last couple of months of listening, and I don't know, you've been telling friends about this podcast or what, but this audience has doubled. Like, I'm overwhelmed. So thank you for all your reviews and ratings on all of the platforms that you listen to this podcast on. Thank you so much. And yeah, I'm going to keep them coming. So thank you. These last days of summer, you should be out there enjoying it on your Stogie Floaty. Stogie Floaty Luxury Pool Float. Available now on Amazon, Etsy, and StogieFloaty.com.